Okay, I'm back. So I'm not going to recap the last video. You might want to watch that one first. This would be mental distancing part 1, step 3. This video I'll call mental distancing part 1, step 4. So where we left off was paying attention to attention, being aware of awareness, and exploring the characteristics of that awareness. I could spend a lot more time on that, but I'm not going to. But we notice that there's no boundaries, there's no edges, there's no center. It's actually quite timeless. I didn't really talk about that a lot because when does awareness happen? You could say it's always happening now. It's always happening. Even now isn't really quite the right word here, but let's just use it. It's always now. Your awareness of now doesn't occur in the past. You could recall being aware in the past. You can even project your mind into the future, project your awareness into the future. That's not the point of this next step 4 video. Here's the point. This is what I'd like you to do. Now let's go back to that sound. Pick a sound in your environment. A bird, a lawnmower, a fan, the wind, people talking. Close your eyes. And now I ask, where does that sound arise? Now, our immediate reaction is to point to the outside. It's over there. It's in the tree. It's in the neighborhood. It's the fan behind me. But here's where I really want you to consider and really investigate. Where is that sound arising? It's arising in awareness, is it not? Without awareness, there would be no perception of any sound. True? Without awareness, there'd be no perception of any sound. That sound, just look, close your eyes and really explore the inner space of awareness. Even the sound of my voice. Where is this occurring? It's occurring inside your awareness. All objects of perception that we think of as being outside of ourselves only exists in our awareness. Whether it's hearing, whether it's seeing, whether it's tasting, whether it's smelling, whether it's touching. So all those objects that we think are outside of ourselves are also, loosely speaking, inside of ourselves. They're one and the same. You might even have a sense that there's a one-to-one mapping between inner space and outer space. In fact, that reminds me of a very great teaching by a Zen teacher who asks or states, look for the place where the inside of you meets the outside of you. That's what I'm pointing to here. I'm not saying two things here. I'm not saying there is an outside and there is an inside. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the outside of you and the inside of you, quote unquote, outside, inside, perception, awareness, objects of perception, awareness of objects of perception, I'm saying they're one and the same thing. They're one and the same thing. I could stop there in this video. I could, because there's another place that I'm going with this. And that is our thoughts. Again, our thoughts. They're not ours. Where do thoughts arise? This was in the second video. Thoughts arise within this awareness. Thoughts are objects of perception, but they also arise within our awareness, just like the supposed sounds that are out there. Thoughts arise. Sounds arise. Tastes arise. Smells arise. Emotions arise. Feelings arise. Where? Inside our awareness. Again, I'm using pronouns here, ours and mine and yours. And thoughts arise. Thoughts fall away. Now this is where mindfulness training really can have a profound effect, because now you could start to investigate what's prior to that thought. Watch the thought arise. Watch it fall away. What's after the thought? We normally have this sense that our thoughts just kind of go on and on and on and on and on, and they do. So now we can start investigating the space between thoughts. And you've already got a really good head start, because if you're aware of awareness and you explored awareness, as we did at the last half of the last video, then it should be quite clear to you by now that not only do all perceptions, objects of perception, arise within this awareness that is boundless and spacious and infinite and timeless, with no edges and no center, so do thoughts. They just arise. They go, and they rise, and they go, and they rise, and they go, and they arise, and they go, and they arise, and they go. What remains? That's the point. What remains? We've already seen this in the last 3 videos. What remains? What's left? What's left? And I'm going to leave you with that. Now, there's going to be another one following this. I think we're going to move into what I call mental distancing part 2. There's a whole nother video about that mental distancing part 2, because now we're going to get into the observer. We're going to get into the witness. And even before that, I want to talk about identification. I've already talked about that in a previous video, but maybe I'll make that the next kind of step. Where are we? Step 5? Part 1, step 5 would be identification, because that's the cause of suffering. But if you can see clearly that thoughts arise and fall away, and that what's always present is just what I'm calling awareness, but that awareness is not separate from perception of supposed objects out there, because inside and outside are the same thing. This is non-duality. If you see that clearly, then you could take the step and see that thoughts too are like that. There's no separation between awareness and thoughts, because thoughts are an object of perception. I'm starting to be at a loss for words. You see a smile on my face. because it's actually very simple. It really is. Do you see it? Do you see it? I've been pointing each of these videos now. This is video number 4 in the sequence. Each of these I've been pointing to that place. Where does the inside of you meet the outside of you? Look for where the inside of you meets the outside of you. Can you find it? So I'm going to stop here. Next video, I'll talk about identification, and then I'll start really getting into the whole witness issue. Those will follow. I'm not going to cut those today. I have other things I need to do today. There's still life. There's still life that gets lived. Life is living itself through this unit, and this unit has some chores it needs to do. So I will leave you with that, okay? All righty.